What if that strange feeling you had this morning wasn't random at all, but proof you've already stepped into a new timeline? Most people dismiss these moments. A flicker of déjà vu, a sudden emotional shift, a light that seems brighter than usual, as quirks of the brain. But what if those experiences are not accidents, not imagination, but evidence of timeline shifting? That subtle sense of disorientation you feel, the way your world seems slightly different but you can't explain why, could actually be the sign that you've crossed an invisible threshold in your own life. Here's the mistake almost everyone makes. They look for loud, obvious confirmations that reality has changed. They want fireworks, big external shifts, undeniable proof. Yet quantum reality doesn't announce itself with trumpets. The universe whispers. It shows up in tiny alterations, subtle choices, unexpected synchronicities, fleeting emotions that come and go like shadows. Ignore them, and you miss the doorway entirely. Recognize them, and you begin to understand that every state of awareness is itself a portal. Imagine this. You wake up and decide, almost without noticing, to view yourself as more capable, more worthy, more aligned. That decision is not just positive thinking. It is you walking through an invisible doorway that leads into a completely different corridor of reality. Every emotional state, every archetype you embody, every subconscious pattern you shift, these are not background processes. They are the actual keys to unseen doors. Later in this video, I'll reveal the most powerful sign that you've not only walked through one of these portals, but fully stabilized in your chosen timeline. And if you're ready to keep exploring how quantum reality truly operates in daily life, subscribe now so you can walk this journey with others who feel the same pull. Timeline shifting isn't science fiction, and it isn't wishful thinking. It is the natural expression of how consciousness interacts with the quantum field. For decades, quantum physics has shown us that particles don't exist in one fixed place until they are observed. They exist in superposition, in multiple possible states. The moment of observation, the act of awareness, is what collapses all possibilities into a single, lived reality. And that same principle applies to us. Every choice, every belief, every emotional alignment acts as an observation. It's the moment we collapse probability into experience. But psychology reminds us that this isn't just about theory, it's about who we are being on the inside. Carl Jung spoke of archetypes, inner identities that shape the way reality reflects back to us. Neville Goddard taught that assuming a state of consciousness is enough to reshape the external world. When you combine these perspectives, the truth becomes clear. Timeline shifting happens every time you embody a new archetype, align your subconscious, and step into a different state of being. That's where the metaphor of invisible portals becomes powerful. These portals aren't found in the sky or in some far-off dimension. They're hidden in plain sight, woven into the fabric of your own awareness. Every thought pattern is a key. Every emotional decision opens a door. When you bring coherence between mind, heart, and action, you don't just imagine change. You literally walk through one of these unseen doors into a new corridor of reality. And remember the loop we opened earlier. There's one powerful sign that tells you when you've not only shifted timelines, but stabilized inside the one you've chosen. We're not there yet, but hold on to that curiosity, because understanding it could change the way you interpret every experience you're having right now. To understand timeline shifting in a way that is both scientific and practical, let's start with the foundation of quantum physics. At the smallest scale, particles exist in a state called superposition, meaning they hold multiple possibilities at once. An electron can be here, there, or anywhere in between. But when observed, that cloud of possibilities collapses into a single, concrete state. This is the famous observer effect, and it suggests that consciousness doesn't just passively witness reality, it actively participates in shaping it. Now bring this principle closer to your daily life. Think of every choice you make, what to focus on, how to interpret an event, even the emotion you allow yourself to embody. Each of these decisions acts like the observer effect. they collapse countless probabilities into a single lived experience. You didn't just decide, you shifted. You walked through one of those invisible portals we mentioned earlier, leaving behind the corridor of what could have been and stepping into the path of what now is. Psychology deepens this understanding. Our subconscious patterns and emotional states act as filters, selecting which timeline we enter. Carl Jung described archetypes, universal patterns of identity, that live in the psyche. When you shift into an archetype, you're not just adopting a mindset, you are inhabiting a new role that reality mirrors back to you. Neville Goddard explained this through the language of assumption. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and the external world must conform. Neuroscience supports this too. Joe Dispenza teaches about coherence between heart and brain as the necessary condition for transformation, while Bruce Lipton's research shows that beliefs literally influence biology at the cellular level. So how does this look in practice? Imagine recurring dreams. Most people dismiss them as meaningless, but in the framework of timeline shifting, they are subconscious rehearsals. They point toward probable realities waiting for you to choose. Then consider déjà vu, that eerie sense you've already lived this moment. Instead of seeing it as a brain glitch, recognize it as a signal that your consciousness has already brushed against this timeline before your rational mind caught up. And what about relationships? Often, people who once felt central to your world quietly fade, while others arrive effortlessly. This isn't random, it's resonance. When your inner frequency shifts, the external constellation of relationships reorganizes itself to match your new vibration. This is why every emotional state can be understood as a key. Anger, fear, and resentment keep certain doors closed, locking you into timelines of struggle or limitation. Gratitude, presence, and love unlock entirely different pathways, opening you to experiences that previously seemed unreachable. It's not mystical, it's logical. You don't get a new reality because you wish for one. You get it because your state of being forces consciousness to collapse probability in a new direction. And here's the profound truth. Timeline shifting is not something rare or dramatic. It's happening constantly. Every thought, every micro-choice, every state of awareness is a step through a portal. The real question is whether you're doing it consciously or unconsciously. If you've ever wondered why life feels repetitive, it's because your subconscious is walking through the same door over and over. But the moment you change the pattern, embody a new archetype, or align emotion with intention, you choose a different door. This is why those of us on this path speak of coherence, resonance, and alignment. It isn't spiritual jargon. It's the structure of reality itself, experienced through the lens of both science and spirit. When you bring awareness to it, you don't just understand the concept of timeline shifting, you live it. When most people first hear about timeline shifting, they get excited by the idea, but fall into traps that quietly keep them stuck in the same corridor of reality. And the irony is, these mistakes feel logical. They look like progress on the surface, but in truth, they reinforce the very timelines people are trying to leave behind. The first misstep is waiting for external confirmation before allowing yourself to shift internally. Many of us think, I'll believe I've stepped into a better reality when I see the evidence. But quantum reality doesn't work that way. The evidence never comes first. Consciousness is the cause, not the effect. By waiting, we actually collapse back into the old state, strengthening the timeline we wanted to escape. Another common mistake is trying to force outcomes with raw willpower. You may visualize obsessively, push yourself to grind harder, or repeat affirmations without emotional alignment. But willpower without resonance is like trying to unlock a door with the wrong key. The lock doesn't open. You exhaust yourself, and the result is frustration, not transformation. Then there's the tendency to dismiss subtle signs like déjà vu, synchronicities, or recurring dreams as random noise. In reality, these are gentle nudges from the subconscious and the field, showing you that the doorway is already open. If you brush them aside as meaningless, you ignore the very proof that your shift is underway. Clinging to old relationships and environments is another hidden anchor. Out of fear of judgment or loss, Many of us hold on to dynamics that belong to a past version of ourselves. But the longer you stay tied to those patterns, the more you reinforce a survival timeline, one where fear, scarcity, or conformity dictate your steps. These missteps are not failures. They're simply patterns that most of us fall into because we weren't taught otherwise. If you've ever felt this way, working hard, but feeling like nothing really changes, it's not because you're broken. It's because you've been unknowingly reinforcing the same reality over and over. Once you recognize these traps for what they are, you gain the power to stop walking in circles and start choosing the doorway that actually leads somewhere new. If you've ever felt stuck, if you've worked hard but nothing seemed to truly shift, it's important to pause and take a breath. The truth is, it's not your effort that's been lacking. It's not discipline or intelligence or even desire. What's been missing is alignment. Most of us were trained to chase results, to fight our way into change, to prove ourselves through struggle. But timeline shifting doesn't demand suffering. It invites coherence. It asks you to recognize that the shift is already happening, quietly, beneath the surface of your awareness. This is why you can release the pressure of earning your highest timeline. You don't need to bargain with the universe. You don't need to wait until you're perfect or endlessly repeat patterns of self-improvement to be worthy. The transition isn't something you build from scratch. It's something you stabilize by noticing and choosing. Just as a radio doesn't create the signal, but tunes into the right frequency, you don't have to create your destiny. You have to align with it. And here's the relief. Even when it feels like nothing is moving, you are not stuck. You're in the process of dissolving an old reality so a new one can crystallize. That sense of emptiness or pause isn't failure. It's the invisible bridge between portals. Recognizing that alone can release years of self-doubt. So let this land deeply. The reason things haven't shifted yet is not because you're broken or undeserving. It's because you've been using the wrong strategy, and now you know a different way. If this resonates with you, take a moment to like this video, not just as a click, but as a signal that these insights matter, that this message deserves to reach others who are also waking up to their quantum reality. Take a moment and really let this sink in. If every choice, every emotional state, every subtle awareness is a doorway, then the question becomes, which door have you been avoiding? What portal keeps showing up in your life through repeated patterns, recurring dreams, or the quiet intuition you keep pushing aside that you haven't yet stepped through? Sit with that for a moment. Don't rush for the answer. Just let the question work on you. And here's another one. What old version of yourself are you still carrying, even though it no longer fits? Maybe it's the self who doubts, the one who fears judgment, or the one who clings to scarcity. Are you willing to let that identity dissolve, to leave it behind as you step into a new corridor of reality? Think of it not as abandoning yourself, but as completing a chapter, turning the page so a new story can finally be written. Those of us who've already started waking up to this path know the power of reflection. It's not about instant answers, but about creating space for the deeper self to emerge. And soon, I'll reveal the sign that tells you when you've not only shifted, but fully stabilized in the timeline you've chosen. So how do you bring all of this down from theory into lived practice? How do you make timeline shifting something tangible and consistent in your daily life? The truth is, it doesn't require complexity. It requires awareness, coherence, and repetition. Small actions, when done consistently, create massive shifts in the direction of your chosen reality. The first practice is what I call the morning awareness check. The moment you wake up, before the noise of the day fills your mind, ask yourself one question. Which portal am I walking through today? This isn't about overthinking. It's about setting a conscious tone. If you wake up in a state of anxiety or self-doubt, you'll unconsciously step into a timeline that reflects those states. But if you wake up and choose gratitude, love, or calm, you shift into a doorway that leads to an entirely different day. It's simple, but profound. The second practice is emotional alignment. Before making decisions, whether small choices or big ones, pause and notice what you're feeling. If the energy is fear, anger, or scarcity, take a breath before acting. Shift into gratitude or presence first. Joe Dispenza teaches that coherence between the brain and heart is what actually stabilizes new realities. When your emotions and thoughts are aligned, the key fits the lock and the door opens effortlessly. The third practice is presence rituals. Throughout the day, especially during stressful moments, stop and take 5 conscious breaths. This anchors you back to the now and prevents your subconscious from dragging you into the same old corridors. Think of it as recentering yourself in front of the right portal, reminding your awareness to step through intentionally rather than by habit. Remember, it's not about doing everything perfectly, it's about consistency. Those who practice these small actions daily report seeing synchronicities appear, feeling more flow in their relationships, and experiencing a natural sense of alignment that no amount of willpower could create. And that's the key. Complexity overwhelms. Consistency transforms. If you want a structured way to deepen this process, that's exactly why I created the Trail. It's a guided path designed to help you recognize your patterns, shift your emotional states, and stabilize in the timeline you choose with clarity and confidence. Instead of scattered practices, it gives you a roadmap to walk step by step, making the invisible visible. The link is in the description if you feel called to take that next step. So as you move forward, remember this. Timeline shifting isn't reserved for special moments or rare breakthroughs. It's available every day, in every breath, in every choice. The practices are simple. The challenge is showing up for them. But those who do find themselves walking through doors they never thought possible, into lives that feel both extraordinary and deeply natural. It's important to be honest. Even with these practices, challenges will still arise. There will be mornings when you forget to check in, days when fear feels stronger than gratitude, or moments when you slip back into old ways of thinking. And that's okay. Relapses into old timelines are not proof that you've failed. They are simply reminders of how deeply ingrained some patterns have been. Those of us on this path know that the real measure of progress isn't whether you never slip, it's how quickly you return. Think of it like tuning an instrument. A guitar doesn't stay perfectly in tune forever. It needs adjustment. The same is true with your state of being. You don't expect perfection, you expect practice. The faster you notice the misalignment and retune, the more natural the process becomes. Sometimes, the old timeline will try to pull you back with familiar people, familiar environments, even familiar thoughts. But instead of seeing that as regression, recognize it as an invitation to strengthen your choice. Each time you realign, you prove to yourself and to the quantum field that your commitment is real. Our community is built on this shared truth. The journey isn't about perfection, it's about resilience. It's about remembering who you are and returning to alignment as many times as it takes. The real victory isn't avoiding mistakes, it's becoming someone who no longer fears them. Because you know that every step, even the messy ones, still leads you forward on the path you've chosen. Right now, you stand at another invisible doorway. It isn't abstract. It's as real as the breath you're taking in this moment. And the choice is simple, to step through with intention or to let the opportunity pass unnoticed. So here's my invitation to you. Choose one word that represents the energy you want to carry into your next timeline. It could be presence, freedom, love, or whatever resonates with the deepest part of you. Write that word in the comments below, not just as a response, but as a symbolic action. When you put it into words, you anchor it, not only for yourself, but into the shared field of everyone walking this path. And now, let's close the loop we opened at the very beginning. I promise to reveal the most powerful sign that you've stabilized in your chosen timeline. It's this: the moment your new reality stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like home. That's when you know you're not just visiting, you're living it. That's when the shift is complete. Your word today is your doorway. Step through it. You are not a traveler, wandering lost among infinite timelines. You are the consciousness that chooses the door. Every breath, every intention, every act of awareness affirms this identity. You are not waiting for life to change. You are the one shaping the change, guiding it with the quiet authority of your own inner state. This journey doesn't end with one shift. Each day invites you to step again, to align again, to choose again. And every choice builds coherence, like drops of water carving a new riverbed. The more you live from this place, the more natural it becomes to inhabit realities that once felt distant or impossible. If this message feels aligned with your path, subscribe, not as a transaction, but as a declaration that you belong here. Our community is made of those who know that quantum reality is not abstract. It's lived, breathed, and chosen. And new content here will continue to expand these truths, giving you more tools, more clarity, and more reminders that the portals are always open. This isn't the end, it's the next step, and the doorway is already waiting.